stuck preparing for your Accenture SAP ABAP on HANA interview? In this video, I'm going to walk you through 88 real interview questions, both HR and technical, that were actually asked, along with the exact answers you should give. Stay till the end, because I'll also show you 2 SQL queries that almost every interviewer asks, and a few golden tips that can make the difference between a rejection and an offer letter. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you're someone preparing for an SAP ABAP on HANA role, especially at a company like Accenture, this video is exactly what you need. I've put together a complete interview preparation guide covering everything from the HR round to the deep technical questions on HANA, CDS views, ABAP objects, enhancements, performance tuning, and even SQL queries that interviewers love to ask. This isn't generic content. These are real questions asked in actual interviews. So let's get straight into it. Make sure you watch till the end, because I'll also share some closing tips that most candidates miss. Section 2, HR round. Let's start with the HR round, because before they test your technical knowledge, they want to know who you are. The first question is almost always, tell me about yourself. Keep this structured. Start with your educational background, then mention your SAP ABAP on HANA training, highlight your key skills like CDS views, AMDP, and OOP ABAP, and close with your career goal of becoming a strong ABAP consultant. Next, why did you choose SAP ABAP? Talk about the strong demand for SAP professionals in enterprise IT, and how ABAP combines programming with real business logic, with a clear growth path into S/4 HANA and cloud. Then comes, why Accenture? Mention that Accenture is a global leader in SAP implementations, has a strong learning culture, and gives exposure to the latest S/4 HANA projects across industries. They'll also ask about your strengths and weaknesses. Be honest but strategic. Say you're a quick learner with strong fundamentals, and for weaknesses, mention something you're actively improving, like real-time project exposure. Other common ones. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Talk about growing into a skilled S/4 HANA consultant. Why should we hire you? Are you comfortable with shifts? And are you willing to relocate? For all of these, show flexibility and enthusiasm. And always have a question ready for the interviewer at the end. Ask about the kind of projects you'd be working on or how Accenture supports upskilling. Section 3, SAP HANA Fundamentals. Now let's move to the technical side, starting with SAP HANA Basics. What is SAP HANA? It's an in-memory, column-oriented database platform that enables real-time analytics and much faster transaction processing compared to traditional databases. A very common question, row store versus column store. Row store keeps the full record together, which is good for transactional, single-row reads. Column store organizes data by column, which is ideal for analytics, aggregation, and compression. This is why HANA is so fast for reporting. They'll also ask ECC versus S/4 HANA. ECC can run on any database and uses separate aggregate tables. S/4 HANA runs only on HANA, has a simplified data model with fewer tables, and gives real-time insights. Next comes ABAP for HANA and code pushdown. This is the concept of writing your ABAP code so that heavy computation happens at the database layer instead of the application server, using CDS views, AMDP, or native SQL. Why does this matter? Because it massively improves performance by leveraging HANA's in-memory, parallel processing engine instead of looping row by row in ABAP. And finally, OpenSQL versus native SQL. OpenSQL is database independent and works across any DB SAP supports. Native SQL is database specific, bypasses ABAP buffering, and is mainly used inside AMDP for full HANA feature access. Section 4, CDS views, AMDP, and SQLScript. This is one of the most important topics for any HANA-focused interview. What is a CDS view? It's a view defined at the database layer using DDL, usually written in Eclipse ADT, and it enables code pushdown, semantic annotations, and reuse across fiery apps, OData services, and custom reports. If they ask how do you create one, explain. In ADT, go to New, then Data Definition, write your DDL with the ABAP catalog annotation, define your select statement, add associations and elements, and activate it. A favorite trick question is join versus association in CDS. A join executes immediately and returns a combined result set right away. An association defines a lazy, reusable relationship. It's only resolved when it's actually used in a consuming query. This makes associations more reusable and often more performant. Then there's AMDP, ABAP Managed Database Procedures, which lets you write HANA SQLScript logic directly inside an ABAP class method, executing on the database itself. An SQLScript is HANA's native procedural SQL extension used to write these stored procedures for complex, high-performance logic. Quick bonus, they may ask about Fiery, UI5, and OData. Fiery is the role-based user experience layer. UI5 is the JavaScript framework powering Fiery apps, and OData is the REST-based protocol that exposes backend data, often from CDS views, to these UIs. Section 5, ABAP Objects OOP Concepts. This section comes up in almost every single interview, so pay close attention. What are the OOP concepts? Encapsulation, inheritance, polymorphism, and abstraction, all implemented in ABAP through classes, interfaces, and methods. The most asked question here is public, protected, and private. Public means accessible to anyone using the class. Protected means accessible within the class and its subclass. Private means accessible only within the class where it's defined. Then comes instance versus static attributes. An instance attribute has a separate copy for every object you create, accessed using the arrow operator. A static attribute has just one copy shared across all instances of the class, accessed using the double colon operator. Similarly, for methods, instance methods can access both instance and static data, but static methods can only access static data, and they can be called without even creating an object, which is why they're great for utility or factory methods. They might also ask about table creation basics, like why we use a delivery class when creating a table in, say, 11. This controls who can change the data and how it's transported. And size category is just an estimate of expected data volume that helps SAP allocate proper storage. Section 6. Enhancements, User Exit, Customer Exit, BADI. This is a big topic, so let's break it down clearly. A user exit is a predefined subroutine in standard SAP code where you can add custom logic. It's an older, less flexible technique. A customer exit uses the enhancement framework with function module exits managed through CMOD and SMOD, letting you add code without modifying standard objects. A BADI, or business add-in, is the more modern, object-oriented enhancement technique. It uses interfaces, supports multiple implementations, and is much more flexible. Now here's a question that trips up a lot of freshers. What is a filter BADI? It's a BADI defined with a filter value, like country or company code, so that a specific implementation only triggers when that filter condition matches. The difference from a standard BADI is that filter BADIs let different implementations run conditionally based on what value is passed. And if they ask BADI versus user exit directly, say that user exits are procedural with only one implementation, while BADIs are object-oriented, support multiple implementations, and are the preferred upgrade-safe approach in modern and S/4HANA systems. Section 7. Performance Optimization. Performance questions are where interviewers really test your depth, not just your memorization. How do you improve ABAP performance? Use joins instead of nested select statements. Fetch only the fields and rows you actually need. Use for all entries carefully. Buffer wherever possible. Never put a select inside a loop. And use hashed internal tables for fast lookups. They'll often ask about ST05 and SQLM. ST05 is the SQL trace tool used to analyze database calls and find expensive or repeated queries. SQLM is the SQL Monitor, which captures SQL statement statistics across the system over time. A classic comparison question, join versus for all entries. A join happens entirely at the database level in a single query, which is usually faster, but you need to watch out for duplicate rows. For all entries runs using data already in your ABAP internal table, which can be slower for large datasets, though it does automatically remove duplicates. And don't forget internal table types. Standard tables are unsorted with fast inserts, sorted tables maintain key order for binary search, and hash tables give you the fastest single record lookup through a unique key. Section 8. Reports, Forms, and Debugging. Let's quickly cover reports and forms. Classical versus interactive report. Classical reports give a single flat output, while interactive reports let the user click and drill down from a basic list into detailed secondary lists. If asked for classical report events, list them in order: initialize SN, at selection screen, start of selection, get, end of selection, top of page, and end of page. For forms, Smart Forms versus SAP Script. SAP Script is older and client-dependent with limited logic, while Smart Forms is graphical, supports loops and conditions natively, and is client-independent. And Smart Forms versus Adobe Forms. Adobe Forms use PDF technology and support interactive, fillable fields, making them the modern standard, especially for interactive online and offline scenarios. For debugging background jobs, remember SAM37 to monitor job status and logs, and JDBG specifically to attach the debugger to an active background job. Section 9. RFC, BAPI, and Data Dictionary. A function module is a reusable ABAP unit with defined parameters, callable from multiple programs. The key difference from a method is that methods belong to a class and support OOP features like inheritance and polymorphism. RFC versus BAPI. RFC is the generic mechanism to call a function module remotely across systems. BAPI is a specific type of RFC-enabled function module that represents a standardized SAP business object operation like creating a sales order. In the data dictionary, know your transparent, cluster, and pool tables. Transparent tables map one-to-one with a database table. Pool tables group several small tables together for efficiency, and cluster tables store multiple tables together physically for joint retrieval. And finally, the transport request process. Changes are recorded in a transport request in development, released, and then imported sequentially into QA and production through STMS. Section 10. SQL Practice Questions. Now let's talk about the 2 SQL questions that come up again and again. Finding the second highest salary. The classic approach is a subquery. Select the maximum salary, where the salary is less than the overall maximum salary. There's also a limit and offset approach if you're working with MySQL. Removing duplicate records. Delete from the table where the ID is not in the subquery that selects the minimum ID grouped by the duplicate defining columns. On SQL Server or Oracle, you can also use a CTE with row underscore number and delete anything where the row number is greater than 1. Pro tip: when you explain these in an interview, don't just recite the syntax, explain the logic behind why it works. That's what actually impresses interviewers. Section 11. Closing tips and outro. Before you walk into that interview room, here are 4 things to remember. 1. Know exactly where you did your training and be ready to give 1 or 2 hands-on examples, like a CDS view or report you built. 2. Be completely fluent with OOP basics. Public, protected, private, and instance versus static come up almost every single time. 3. Whenever you talk about select, join, or internal tables, always connect your answer back to why it improves performance. That's what separates a good candidate from a great one. And 4. Always have the smart questions ready for the interviewer at the end. That's it for this video. If this helped you, smash that like button, subscribe for more SAP career content, and drop a comment. All the best for your interview.